This is a meeting of the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee. Today is Monday, October 28th. We'll call this meeting to order. First item of business is to approve the minutes of the October 14th, 2024 meeting.
Move approval of the 10/14/24 meeting minutes. There we go.
All right. And so those minutes are approved. All right. First up, we have a presentation by Colin Alexander, or Director Fowler. You're going to handle this. Interlocal cooperation agreement with the City of Homewood for improvements on Green Springs Highway.
Thank you. And again, my name is James Fowler. I serve as the director of the city's Department of Transportation. The agreement that you have before you is a shared funding agreement for, you may not have seen it, but there's a drainage channel beside Green Springs Highway right before you get to Valley Avenue. So going downhill southbound on Green Springs on the right. And that channel has eroded and washed out. There's actually a utility that was buried underneath the gravel at the bottom of the channel, but it's now been kind of uncovered because of so much erosion. And then also the erosion is eating into the roadway. Right there, the right-of-way is split between Homewood and Birmingham. And so it's kind of an awkward spot. So after meeting on site with Homewood and kind of working through the problem with them, we decided that probably the fairest thing to do right there was to split the cost of improving that. So this has been reviewed by our city engineer for the city of Birmingham, and this project is going to be managed by Homewood, and they have actually bid the project, so this would help them go forward with executing the agreement. So they'll manage it and make the change, but this is ultimately a shared project between Homewood and Birmingham.
Is this right next to I-65, or is it further up the hill, like?
So there is I think it was a Goodwill right there. So yeah. It's at the intersection just close, or at Valley, where there's a Walgreens catty corner to it. So on the complete opposite corner, coming up the hill, there's a drainage channel that's off to the side there. And
okay. So we're just splitting the cost 50-50 with Homewood?
That's correct. Yes, sir.
All right. Councilor Woods, you have any questions?
Yes, sir. What's your linear footage on this? Or
how
much distance?
That's a good question. I don't necessarily have that in front of me, but we can get that for you. It may be about 100 foot of length, but it's a pretty big channel, and it's eating into the side of the roadway. So
I guess what's a landmark right there?
Tell you what.
Yeah, I was trying to find out too. So it's like on the Homewood side of Green Springs, up there by Goodwill, and it's sort of near the crest of Red Mountain, I would assume, if it's near the Goodwill.
And this is between the Goodwill store and the interstate, or is it on the?
So it used to be the Goodwill store, and it's between, there's a CVS that's at catty corner to Walgreens. So there's a CVS, and just up the hill, what used to be, I think it was a Goodwill, it is now Christ Fellowship Church. So there's a kind of a box retail building that's been renovated into Christ Fellowship Church, and the channel is right next to that. And you can, if you pull it up on Google, you can see actually the drainage way that comes along the road, and it's gotten a little bit bigger since then, but you can kind of see how it's eroded.
Oh, so it's basically right adjacent to the parking lot for the church.
Between the parking lot and Green Springs.
So it's just that one section, not the next section up either, just the, are you crossing any, curb cuts? Or is it just?
We're not crossing the curb cuts. I think it actually goes underground, just south of there. South of the driveway that's between CVS and the Christ Fellowship Church. Or set of driveways.
Yeah, it's maybe a couple hundred feet of frontage. Okay. So this is a reimbursement, so whatever the actual cost ends up being, assuming that it's, 60,000 or less, we would just reimburse Homewood half.
My understanding actually is that they have already sought bids for it, and so this is actually half of the cost.
Okay.
And then they're managing the project, so.
So it sounds like they're adding a curb there, or is there already a curb there?
There is not a curb, so it's primarily just actually cleaning up that channel. So cleaning up the edges of the channel, it's real jagged and washed out right now, and then adding riprap and making sure that the utility line, which you can actually see in the latest Google aerial, making sure that gets covered up properly.
Okay. So kind of reading the description, it sounds like they're gonna have to pour a curb. They're gonna be installing a curb along Green Springs. Cause it doesn't look like there's a curb there now.
Right.
So that might make more sense at the cost if they're adding a curb.
Mm-hmm.
So if you look at the, description, it talks about, basically making those header curb cuts every 50 feet.
Yeah, I would assume that most of the cost is associated with the concrete work, and excavation along the side of the highway for that curbing.
I guess you met with them, you feel like this is a kind of necessary scope of, like I said, I'm assuming, I guess, could you confirm that they are adding, concrete curbing?
Yes, sir. I missed that in the description here, but the scope was developed between our city engineer and Homewood city engineer, kind of working collaboratively.
Yeah, I mean, I'm good with just going to full council, but I will, some clarity on the scope would be needed just to make sure, my interpretation is accurate.
Yes, sir.
I move we send this to full council with the affirmative recommendation.
Okay, I'll second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. So that will go to the full council. And next up, we have the Public Transportation Services Agreement between Birmingham Jefferson County Transit Authority and the City of Birmingham.
So what we have is an agreement that essentially extends our agreement from last year with the Transit Authority. And so because the city in its budget adopted last year's budget, the service description and the amounts included in this agreement are the same as last year, with the thought that if needed, as we potentially consider budget amendments later in this fiscal year, we might come back and amend this agreement if needed to reflect either changes in service or amounts. The one thing that has been changed regarding the language in here is in the reports section. So at the end of the reports section, we have added, in addition to their monthly report, that BJCTA agrees to finalize its latest strategic plan document and submit a final version to the City of Birmingham by the end of the first quarter of calendar year 2025. This is on page 4 of the agreement. And additionally, at the request of the Transit Authority, we added a statement just below that: failure of the BJCTA to provide the final strategic plan document by this deadline will not be considered grounds for the city to delay the service payments described in this agreement. So with those two changes to this agreement, the hope is that we can go ahead and authorize them to continue service under this fiscal year, and then if needed, come back later and amend it further.
So it's fresh in everybody's inbox, but the current version of the strategic plan has been shared with the council, in addition to all of the monthly service reports for, I think, going all the way back to January of 2023, I believe. So we have that information. Thanks to Miss Michelle Inman back there for helping us to compile that. Appreciate it. I did want to point out something in here. So in section 1.3, it with respect to operation changes, it specifies BJCTA shall notify the city by giving 60 days written notice detailing such changes. And then in section 1.4, BJCTA's obligations, under G, it says, provide the city not less than 30 days notice of any changes. So we could probably just delete G. And go with, the section 1.3. But, making at the very, if you want to keep G in there, it needs to be changed to 60 days or whatever time period we feel is appropriate.
I'd be okay with deleting G. Okay with that. Can I ask just a quick operational question regarding that? When you guys are making, to the Transit Authority, when we're making changes to service, Charlotte and team, how much time do you guys provide to the board and the public for comment and feedback?
So we're required to do a 30-day notice to the public before we make those changes. But, we try more, but our requirement is just 30 days before service fees.
So, and also, the reason we're requesting 30 days versus 60, because we may have changes less than 60 days. But we might institute as a change as part of the operating assignment package.
Since that is their internal policy that they require a minimum of 30 days, I'm okay with 30 days.
Yeah. What's the FTA? Is that 30 days specified by FTA? Okay. Yeah, we can roll with that then.
So with that, I guess recommending amending the,
Section 1.3 to 30 days written notice, and then deleting G under section 1.4. Okay. And then does the NTD data just generally available online, or do we have to request that? Okay. So would service hours be included in that NTD for the city? Okay.
Well, not for the city, that's the whole system.
Oh, for the whole system. Okay. I was just curious, so it also specifies here under section 3.1 that BJCTA shall provide not less than 62,000 total service hours of public transportation services to the city. And I was just wondering what, for our previous contract year, where we came out on that.
But we've always provided that or more, whenever we provide service to the city. It's been a.
Right. Yeah, yeah, if I'm remembering correctly, it's always kind of exceeded, what we've specified there as, well, in any case, if you guys could track that down and let us know.
Can I just suggest, recommend one other change to 3.3, where you have passenger ridership in the city and surrounding service areas? Is your intent to have information for all the other municipalities as well, or just the city of Birmingham?
do you see that, Councilor O'Quinn?
Yeah, I saw that earlier, and I guess I just assumed that since some of the routes, go into other jurisdictions, I mean, when you're providing the reports for those routes that service other jurisdictions, inherently, some of those boardings are, in other jurisdictions. So it's sort of, the information doesn't parse out City of Birmingham versus Homewood versus Hoover as far as all of those boardings. It's just for the route. So it's kind of built in to the reports that we're getting already, that it's,
So are we clarifying that it is not our intent to get detailed information on, say, Homewood's routes or other routes?
well, let me just ask then, so if you were giving another jurisdiction an equivalent report, all the routes, tie back to Central Station. So how do you report to other jurisdictions the information that's specific to them?
Just that, we just report on those routes to the municipalities.
Okay, so you can't parse out who's getting on at certain bus stops.
Yes, absolutely we can, and we do that, that's how we give other municipalities their hours and give the city of Birmingham, and of course, you touch every route because it ends up in Central Station. But the other municipalities that end up in Central Station don't pay for that route, they pay for that stop in those areas, in their municipalities.
Yeah. Well, I mean, another way for us to, gather that more detailed type of information would be to do that in the context of the annual meeting that's,
Paragraph below that.
yeah,
January meeting, okay.
right. Yes, so, yeah, if we wanted to get, so the reports right now, the monthly reports are just sort of aggregate for the entire route. If we wanted to get more detailed about boardings at specific bus stops, rather than having that in the context of a monthly report, maybe it would be more appropriate for us to do that at our annual convening. Does that sound reasonable?
Yeah, I think actually we talked about that last year. I remember this conversation now, that for individual bus stops, which, there's hundreds throughout the city, we did decide not to include that level of granularity in the monthly reports, but that it would be available if we needed it and wanted to discuss it. And so, to your point, yes, the January meeting, and they've been agreeable to do other workshops in addition to those as well. So I think that data is accessible to us if needed.
Okay. Council Woods, you got anything?
Yeah, real quick, if you could discuss any kind of year-over-year operational adjustments in terms of the allocation of funds. I can't remember, did we do 3 million to the, VIA and stuff last year, or on demand? Or how did that break down last fiscal year?
Apologize, I'm going to forget the exact amount that we paid to VIA, that the city paid to VIA last year. Currently, the Transit Authority, within their budget, is operating some micro-transit services using VIA. And our intention, hopefully in the not too far future, would be to coordinate and transition our services to the Transit Authority. But I don't remember off the top of my head what our budget allocation was for that last year.
But we didn't move anything from, we didn't consolidate anything.
Not as a part of this agreement, no, sir.
Right, so, if I'm recalling correctly, the budget allocation for, on-demand microtransit was $2 million. So, the city has been talking to BJCTA about, transitioning administration of on-demand microtransit, like the whole thing, to BJCTA. And I think we're getting close to figuring out how that will work.
We are getting close, and the two main reasons for that, I can't recall if we've talked about that in this session or in this setting before, but the two main reasons are, one, the Transit Authority can actually count the data, the ridership data, as a part of their system if it goes through them, and so that affects the amount of formula funds that they receive from the FTA, so they can actually receive some reimbursement for spending those funds, which we're not set up to do that. And the second reason is just for better coordination. So microtransit is going to work best if it's closely coordinated with the fixed route system, and the transit authority is in the best position to coordinate those two services most efficiently.
Yeah.
Let's keep the buses rolling.
Yeah. Okay. That's all I've got. And as you mentioned, you know, as things, you know, develop in terms of potential budget amendments, this could potentially come back to us with some adjustments made. And that may actually also include the on-demand microtransit as well.
That's right.
Yeah. So we might see this again really soon.
Yeah, I hope so. And then just one other final note too regarding this strategic plan that they're working on, kind of the final version. So they sent us an early version, and our department's given them back some comments, and they're working with a firm to kind of polish that up and streamline it to get us the final version. But what's included in that is some really good initiatives from the mobile app that's going to be much more user-friendly for customers to use the buses, to how they do their payment system so that you can, you know, purchase a ticket with your phone, move away from relying on just a cash-based system, and then other long-range strategic initiatives like focusing on their maintenance facility and a number of other strategic goals as well. So I think we can expect that they'll give us a presentation on that in the near future on what some of those initiatives are, but they're working on some really good things that I think are going to benefit the whole region, but definitely going to benefit the customers.
Good. All right, I'm gonna send this to full council with a recommendation to approve.
All right, I'll second that. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. So both of those items have been recommended to the full council for approval. Do we have any new or old business we need to discuss?
No, I think we're good.
All right. Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.